欢迎收听 Coco 早餐。
Coco's VIP。
欢迎大家继续回到 Coco 早餐节目哈，关于杨苏立先生，也就是2006年担任AIT 台北办事处处长的这位前任的驻台大使在美国所说的，美国的陆战队将要驻守在AIT 在内湖的新的办公大楼这件事情呢，引发了各界的讨论。今天呢，旺报的头版头条刊登的是大陆的学者说，如果美军驻台湾的 AIT， 台湾将万劫不复这个强烈示警。这件事情其实是从陈水扁总统政府时代 AIT 要从现在的信义路移到内湖的时候，据我知道就开始讨论。而我们呢，历届的 AIT 的台北办事处的处长，除了杨苏立之外，接下来的司徒文大使，其实他介入非常深，也非常了解这个状况啊。今天很谢谢司徒文大使在电话线上跟我们来说明这件事情。司徒文大使目前仍然是住在台北，做的快乐的台湾的这个最欢迎的美国友人啊。大使你早。
早安好。
早 ，Happy New Year。Happy
New Year。
OK，
新年快乐，
新年快乐这个要非常谢谢您啊，这个跟我们来电话连线呢。Well， 这个 Would you comment or elaborate on the report about U.S. Marines the troops coming to Taiwan to AIT's new building?
Well, I think if you say troops, it's misleading.
Okay, not
there's
troops.
It's not a large number. It's traditional at all U.S. Diplomatic or representative offices around the world to have a detachment of Marine guards to protect the facility. That's standard practice. And, you know, in 2002, Congress passed legislation that said that active duty military, U.S. military and foreign service officers, diplomats, could work at AIT. And since 2005, they have done that. When the facility was planned for Nehu, part of the planning was that it would have a Marine Guard building, a building to house the Marines.
Yes, okay.
And what's surprising about the story is not that this is happening, but that my predecessor, Steve Young, has publicized it. Because generally speaking, the U.S. government is more discreet about this. There's no need to wave it, as a bright red flag. That might anger someone.
Okay, so you mean this is true, but without publicly comment or publicly announcing it. This is a mutual understanding between the U.S. government and the Taiwan's government.
Right. I mean, I think there's been discussion of it in the past.
Yes.
Some of the issues have been on issues like what kind of uniforms, if any, they would wear. And when I was at AIT, I was very involved as well because under the Obama administration, the decision had not finally been made about the Marines. But the Marines were keen to have a detachment here.
Yes.
And finally the decision was made. But then after I left AIT, I understood there were some doubts about that again. And now with the new administration, I would imagine it's going forward because the new administration has taken a more forward-leaning approach, I think, to Taiwan on whatever essentially minor issues. I mean, we're not talking about hundreds of troops. We're talking about some Marine detachments are as small as 6 or 7 people. Sometimes they have 12 or 15. For very, very large embassies, they might be 20 or 25. But they're not here as troops.
Okay, I need to translate it into Mandarin 哈。那刚开始我请教这个司徒文大使，我是说你们的陆战队的部队要来了吗？那司徒文大使说no， 你是 misleading， 就我是问这个问题就是陆战队来吗？他说不是，是陆战的 detachment。So 这个 detachment 其实就是防卫这个人士这个，但是他也是陆战这个人士。大概通常是6到7人，或者是12个到15个人，或者是20个人到25个人。但是呢，这是在美国国会所通过的2002年的法案，说以后的 AIT 是应该可以这个请美国的陆战队的相关的人士来做维护安全，来住在这个台北的 AIT。因为呢 AIT 在2005年开始要从现在的大安区移到了这个现在的内湖。那因为今年底内湖的这个AIT 的办公大楼就要完成，当时呢其实是在陈水扁总统政府时代，杨苏丽大使就是那个时候的2006年来的那他在美国公布了这件事司徒文大使觉得有点很吃惊，因为他说这件事情本来大家都不公布。那我问他说是不是因为是相互的这个默契，大家不要公布那他这个也就是说，其实司徒文大使在2008年到2012年担任AIT 台北办事处处长的时候也介入了这件事情。那这个换句话讲这个司徒文大使证实确实有此事。那这是依照美国的目前呢这个国务院所遵循的法令规定所进行的Ambassador, so the Marine detachment, how do you translate it into Chinese? Exactly the correct translation.
Detachment. It's just a small guard force. A small I don't know. It's like platoons or squad size.
Okay, so it's not a Marine troop, but
no, it's not. I think when people say troops, you get the idea that there are going to be
a lot of
hundreds of people. It's a small guard force.
So, according to your knowledge, how many Marine detachment people will come to AIT Taipei office by the end of this year?
I don't remember the exact figures, but I would imagine it would be somewhere between maybe 10 or 12.
10 or 12.
Maybe 15. I'm not sure. I think what's missing in this whole story is what's really important is not the Marines, but the fact that the U.S. government has spent some $300 million building a new facility, a new representative office for AIT in Taiwan. That is even more important than the Marines as a symbol of the U.S. commitment to Taiwan, long-term interest in Taiwan.
Oh, yes. The $300 million is a lot of money, So
Absolutely.
It's a very, very deep investment to Taiwan.
So
yes. 刚才这司徒文大使解释就我请教他这个 Marine Troop 跟 Marine Detachment 就是不一样。他说这个大概就是一个维护的一个小的这个守卫队那依照他的记忆，大概有10个人到12个人左右要来到内湖的这个AIT 的办公大楼那这个是美国的驻外大使馆都是如此的那不过这个大使这个告诉我们，最重要的是美国这个当局投入了相当多的金钱是300这个 million 的美元来建造这个内湖的这个 AIT 的办事处，这才表示美国对台湾的这个承诺。And then my next question is through all your office years, you have discussed this issue with President Ma and President Ma's officials?
Well, it's been discussed with I don't remember with President Ma directly, but with other government officials. it was a matter of discussion.
Yes.
I think because we had a Marine representative at AIT, I know that the Taiwan Marines were aware of this. And you may recall that last December, legislation was passed calling for higher-level military contacts between the United States and Taiwan that was signed into law. So I think, the Taiwan government is well aware of it.
Yes.
And one of the things I don't know is how they resolve the issue of uniforms. Because Marines are very attached to their uniforms, but I think generally the understanding was as long as they were on the compound, perhaps they could wear them, but certainly not when they go outside the compound. So it's not like you're going to see American soldiers running around.
But Marines people are very handsome.
I don't know about that.
好，这个大使，我刚刚请教他说，马英九总统时代其实就在讨论这件事情。他说他不是很记得是不是跟马英九总统本人讨论，但是在国民党执政时的这8年的时期当中，其实据我知道这件事情，其实马总统是非常理解的。那现在的这个问题就是说，这些陆战队的维护的这个守护的这些人士要不要穿制服啊？那如果他们穿制服，也可能只是在 AIT 的办公大楼之内，不会到外面去啊。But there are reports about China's their reaction. Some scholars said it will anger the communist China to have reasons to attack Taiwan. How do you see it?
Well, I think that's overblown. I mean, it's not how should I say? It's not a significant military movement.
Yeah.
Anger Beijing. I think for too many years, everybody's always worried about angering Beijing. It would anger the American people and the American government if the Chinese overreacted to it.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of things that China does that anger the U.S. government and anger the American people. Unfair trading practices, what they're doing in the South China Sea. So, these think tank people, they can say what they want, but it's also a U.S. obligation to protect the representative facilities in another country, and that's why we have Marines.
Yes. 刚才司徒文大说，请教他说，因为现在今天有报纸的头条，像《旺报》头条，就是说中共的学者说，哇，这个事情可是严重了。他认为这个会激怒这个老共啊，有理由来进攻台湾，台湾将万劫不复。不过司徒文大说，这个太严重了，这个是过分夸张。这个是美国的陆战队他们来保护他们自己的驻外的这个单位，而这个北京当局中共其实也让这个美国的人民跟美国的政府很生气啊这个不管是贸易上的这个问题或是其他的问题，这件事情只是保护自己不需要如此。We need to have some commercials and we will be back. Ambassador, we would like you to comment on Mr. Trump's telephone calls with 习近平先生。Thank you.
Okay.
马上回来。
Coco 早餐。
好，自从中美断交之后，我们在台湾很久没有看到这个我们的台湾的美国的这个代表处有美国的着制服的军人出现啊。那这一次在年底内湖的美国在台协会的台北办事处新栋的大楼要成立要开始使用。刚才这个司徒文大使在我们电话连线的时候说，除了这个Marine 的 detachment 这个他说用 troop 讲这个用部队讲是太过于夸大，因为大概是10个到12个人的小规模的防卫队。这个虽然这个有意义，但是 美国投资了300 million 的这个美金去建造这么大的一栋在台湾的这个重要的使馆，我们称为使馆才是重要的意义啊。那司徒文大使他本人任内也处理了这件事，当时我记得这 Marine House 的建立还刊登了广告。好，刚才这个司徒文大使告诉我们，这个北京的overreaction 呢，这个他可能会造成美国人的反感。接下来要请教这个Ambassador Staten 的就是Mr. Trump's telephone call with 习近平先生。According to news report, President Trump he said at the request of Xi, 这个 the U.S. government honors 这个 our One China policy. How do you see, and can you elaborate the significance and the consequences of Mr. Trump's new announcement?
Well, I think it was a step forward from having, say, when he first said that we need to get something in exchange for a One China policy.
Yeah.
And I think he was trying to correct that. But what he said was more of a traditional reiteration of our One China policy. In other words, the U.S. One China policy, which is not the same as the People's Republic of China One China principle.
Okay.
Our policy. Go ahead.
I need to translate it because it is very important. 刚才这个司徒文大使告诉我们说，这个是川普总统。我刚刚请教的是川普跟习近平这个电话，说是在对方习近平的要求之下，说我们尊重这个美国的一中政策。那司徒文大使回应是说，这是一个比较这个往前进就是 correct 就修正了川普在先前对于不遵守一中的这个说法，但是呢，他说比较重要的就是说，他说的是美国的一中政策，而不是中国所说的一中原则。Please 这个 go ahead 这个 I translate it into Mandarin and then
我听得懂。
Okay, thank you.
Well, I was just going to say that this is basically what we've always said, that our One China policy of the United States is that we acknowledge the Chinese position. We acknowledge it. We don't agree with it. We don't endorse it. We just say we acknowledge, we recognize the Chinese policy that there is but one China. But as we said in the Six Assurances, we don't take a position on Chinese claims to sovereignty over Taiwan. So I think by saying reiterate our One China policy, I think that probably Xi Jinping understood what that meant, but at least it was face-saving way to get out of what previously had been seen as an attack on the One China principle.
Yes, okay. 刚才这个司徒文大使非常这个if I translate it wrongly, please correct me 我刚刚跟这个司徒文大使说，如果翻错了，还请司徒文大使这个来修正我因为他其实是听得懂讲的也非常好，知道很客气这不愿意讲希望的比较这个重大这些议题还是用英文说。刚才司徒文大使说这个所谓的 One China 这个 policy 跟 One China 这个中国北京所坚持的一中原则不一样的地方是，他们是认知一中，但是并不见得是同意或者是这个背书这个一个中国，而且也以6项美国的对台湾的6项承诺为主那并不这个支持所谓中国对台湾具有主权这个控制的这样的一个说法那这个也可能这个川习的通话是对习近平来讲是有某种程度上的这种面子上的这个修正的问题My last question will be how will it affect the relations between the U.S. government and Taiwan?
Well, I've generally been optimistic that that relations between Taiwan and the United States will improve.
Improve compared to?
Compared to what they've been in the past. I mean, not, well, compared to what they've been in the past since 1979, when we broke relations.
Okay.
For one thing, I've always held the view that no matter who is elected, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, you can see that favorability ratings of China in the United States have continually declined.
Yeah.
And there's a feeling on both Democrats and Republicans that the kind of relationship we've had with China has been unfairly weighted in behalf of China.
So, our time is limited, so I have to translate it into Mandarin. 刚才司徒文大使接受我的这个最后一个问题提问，就是这个整个的新的发展，川普跟习近平通电话等等，对台湾跟美国关系影响。他说，大致上来讲，应该是比过去还好。那我说过去是什么？他当然说就是以前啊，不过他还提到这个，其实1979年中美断交的时候不管怎样，美国人对这个中国北京政权的这个满意跟支持度其实是降低的，这一点共和党跟民主党的政治人物都有认知啊。Thank you very much 这个 for Ambassador's your newest comment on the newest issues. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year again.